PIVOTBY formula in Excel is a handy alternative to pivot tables or other formulas such as Sumif, Countif, and etc. It can help us make analysis in Excel. And let me show you here an example. I have a table, as you can see. Of course, it's not exactly a table, however, it's a data set. And by the way, I think it's very important to transform my data set into a table because a table has many benefits that I'm gonna show you. But first, let me select the entire data set that I have until the last row, okay, like this. And doesn't matter the type of data set you have because you can apply the same steps. Now let me go here to insert and then table. Make sure you check this checkbox with my table has headers and then okay. Now we already have a table in Excel. Now we can go here to the right and see what is all about pivot by formula. Equals sign, because everything starts with a equal sign in Excel, and then pivot by. This is the formula that we are going to use. 1, 2, okay, to select. Pivot by is a formula that has many different arguments, as we can notice right here. However, let's start with the first one, row fields. Row fields is basically the informations that you wanna use as the rows. So let's say as the rows, I wanna use a column within my a column of my table, and this column can be the product. So let me select all those products, and here is a crystal clear benefit to use a table in Excel, because instead of click, hold, and drag down all the way down the data set that you have, you can simply go to the header and then click. When you find this down black arrow, it's a very easier way to select the entire data. Okay, so my first information as the row field is going to be the products. So each one of the rows that I have are going to be set as a different product, comma. Now I have column fields. I don't want to use no columns into my analysis, so I can skip this argument just for now, okay? Because later we can come back to this argument and see what we can do with it. Comma. As the values, I want to use, let's say, the total. So again, I can select the whole column. Comma again. As the function, I want to use sum. 1, 2 to select. And if I hit enter, automatically Excel, with the help of pivot by, is going to automatically organize all the products that I have with the total summarized by those products. And this is basically how we can use pivot by in Excel. Instead of trying to figure out a formula or a tool such as pivot table itself to help us create analysis in Excel, we can use simply pivot by. It's a very economic way to do analysis. Another very cool thing about this formula is whenever you click within the range of this formula, as you guys can notice, we have a very subtle bluish highlight indicating the interval of this formula, and it's dynamic. So if I click in any cell, let's say this one right here, 1, 2, to open up the cell, we can see there's nothing within the cell because it's a dynamic range. The formula is only in the first cell and it's being expanded to the other cells. And another cool benefit about the pivot by is every time you add a new row into your table with new information, PIVOTBY updates automatically. So let's do a test right here. Let me go to the last row, and I'm just going to insert a random information such as item A with the value of 9900. Okay, now let me go back to the top, and as you guys can see here, the value is already here. So this is what I was talking about. PIVOTBY formula works automatically. Now let me get rid of this information, right click, delete, okay. And let me get rid of the formula too. Okay, like that. Just click, delete, and that's it. I want to do it again, PIVOTBY, however, using now as a criteria the column, okay. So equal PIVOTBY, double click, 1, 2. Row fields, I'm going to use the products again, comma. As the columns, I can use to separate the values, maybe the status. So I can click here, comma. Because I'm using the status column as the column fields, it's indicate that each one of the columns that I have are going to be a different status. As the value, I want to use again the total, comma, and as the function, sum again. However, I can also use different formulas, such as average, count, maximum, minimum, product, and so on. For now, let's stick with sum. Okay, enter. That's it. Now I have as the columns each one of those status, and as the rows each one of the products, because those are the options that we selected before. Another cool thing that we can do here is 1, 2, again, to open the formula. As I said, we have many arguments. Of course, we could spend many minutes here understanding each one of those arguments. However, I'm going to show you here the ones that I like the most, that are row sort order and also column sort order. But let's go with the row sort order first. So here, after the parentheses, I can click and then go back to get rid of the parentheses, and then comma. Now we are in the field headers. Let's skip this argument. However, this argument show us the headers, the titles of our PIVOTBY formula, okay? Skip. Row total def, we can show here totals, grand totals, subtotals, and etc. Comma. Row sort order. For this argument, we can have 4 different options. We can use +1, -1, 2, and -2. Let's start with the number 1 and see what it does change in the formula. Enter. Okay, basically we have the same formula again, but what we can do is I want to click in this first cell just to make sure I can copy and paste down, copy and then paste down. With this new copy and paste, this duplicated formula, I want to open up 1, 2, and instead of use the number 1, I want to use the number -1. Enter, and just see what does change. So as you guys can notice here, the only thing that change is the alphabetical order. In the first one, we have from A to Z, and in the second one, from Z to A. So this is what changed between +1 and minus or -1, okay? The formula is going to sort from A to Z or from Z to A. But let's do it one more time. Click in the formula or on the formula, copy and paste down like this. Instead of use -1, now I want to use 2. Enter. And as you guys can see, a different arrangement was done here. And this time is about the total. So we have the smallest value at the top and the largest one at the bottom. So from the smallest to the largest one. Let me copy and paste again. And one more time, we're going to change the row sort order argument. This time I want to use -2. And by the -2, we can have a different arrangement. And this time with the largest values at the top and the smallest one at the bottom. So from big to small. So this is how we can use the PIVOTBY formula in Excel to help us create analysis. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you in the next one.